Hey folks, welcome back. In this section of the course, we're going to talk about CloudWatch, metrics, monitoring, and logs. And CloudWatch plays a big role in the DevOps professional certification exam and certainly in the profession itself. So in the DevOps doctrine, let's choose our topic, CloudWatch for DevOps. And CloudWatch is an essential tool for the DevOps engineer. CloudWatch supports the DevOps concepts of automation, communication, and collaboration by giving access to monitoring and logging. CloudWatch metrics can be used to work with elastic load balancers and determine the scaling actions of auto-scaling groups. And later in this section, I'm going to put an emphasis on custom metrics. Custom metrics are a very powerful tool which will allow the DevOps engineer to leverage CloudWatch monitoring in a wide range of scenarios. And the custom metrics seem to have a pretty heavy focus in the DevOps professional certification exam. So we'll certainly touch on custom metrics pretty thoroughly. So by now, and certainly even in this course, we've focused on using CloudWatch with auto-scaling. The CloudWatch alarms enable us to scale out and scale in our auto-scaling groups. In the diagram, I'm showing just some of the resources which can be used with CloudWatch. And CloudWatch monitoring and logging are important to understand the infrastructure and application, monitor the effects of application deployments on the infrastructure, prevent and respond to issues. We can be proactive with CloudWatch, and we'll see that in the section. And certainly, of course, we can respond to issues via CloudWatch alarms. CloudWatch can help to automate actions and facilitate communication and collaboration between developers and operations teams. Now, with CloudWatch, we can monitor and store access logs from EC2, and typically our storage is going to be in the highly durable S3 bucket. So we're using these logs, and they can be used before deployments, during deployments, and after deployments. And we can have automated reports to assist us with troubleshooting before SSHing into an instance even becomes necessary. But we're not restricted to just monitoring the EC2 instances. We can monitor our auto-scaling groups and our elastic load balancers. So we have visibility across our entire infrastructure. Another thing we can do with CloudWatch is time-based monitoring. We can pool statistics over a specific area of time, and based on certain metrics, we can trigger alarms based on those statistics. And when we receive an alarm, we can perform specific actions that we specify. Now, we're going to want to collect and send our logs from our instances to CloudWatch. And this can be done in numerous ways. We can do it through the CLI, we can use API and SDK calls. We can install a CloudWatch logs agent on our instances, which we'll see later in the section. So the CloudWatch logs agent is a daemon that can continually run to automatically push log data to CloudWatch logs. And we'll see it's a big part of using CloudWatch with our EC2 instances. So the key theme in all of this is that CloudWatch is used with EC2 auto-scaling and our elastic load balancers, and used pretty thoroughly. There's significant coverage on the DevOps certification exam. Now, probably at some point you're wondering, can I configure CloudWatch from CloudFormation? And the answer is absolutely. CloudWatch integrates with CloudFormation. So within our CloudWatch stacks, we can create and configure alarms. We can set up log groups and metrics, and we can configure instances to have the CloudWatch logs agent installed and configured, all through CloudFormation templates. Now, CloudFormation will be covered very thoroughly in the next section of the course. So I'm not going to touch on it a great deal here, but let's just keep it in the back of our minds that everything we're doing with CloudWatch, we can configure in a CloudFormation template. Now, there's only so much real estate I have in the diagram, but there are many other services that can interact with CloudWatch. So let's keep in mind, we certainly can use CloudFormation, but we can also use OpsWorks, Elastic Beanstalk, even Puppet to automate monitoring and logging deployments. So what if we want to monitor API calls made in our environment? We can integrate CloudTrail with CloudWatch. We can send CloudTrail events to CloudWatch logs. Now, one example would be if you want your personnel to be notified when certain API calls are made. So we can create metric filters to evaluate CloudWatch events for matches in terms, phrases, and values, and we can send these events to CloudWatch logs. Now, from there, we can do a number of things. One of the things we could do is utilize SNS notification to ultimately notify our personnel when a certain API call is made. And we'll see some of this later in the section. And this is the type of scenario that can come up on the DevOps certification exam. Another example would be we can create an alarm for when someone signs in with the root account. And remember, our best practice is to use the root account sparingly. There are instances where it's appropriate, but in most cases, an admin account can perform the actions that you will need. So with CloudTrail and CloudWatch, another thing we can do is set up notification when someone modifies IAM policies or security groups or network access control list. So utilizing CloudTrail and CloudWatch together is going to allow you to closely monitor your system and make you aware of changes that could greatly affect the performance and behavior of your environment. Another common use case is to set up notifications for when an EC2 instance is stopped, started, or terminated. And the examples are really endless, but there are any number of ways that you can integrate CloudTrail with CloudWatch to keep you apprised of what's going on in your environment. Now, getting back to EC2 instances, we can use custom metrics to send information from EC2 to CloudWatch. And again, I'm going to touch on custom metrics as much as possible in this section because an understanding of custom metrics will go a long way in your preparation for the exam, but also just in the field as a DevOps engineer. Let's go over to our AWS Management Console. And I'm at the dashboard. Let's go into metrics. Now, first of all, note that I'm in Northern Virginia. Now, recently I've been working in the US West 2 region, which is Oregon. But I wanted to just show I'm in Northern Virginia. Let's go into metrics. And I have 55 metrics available to me. Let me switch over to Oregon, where I've been doing the majority of my work and where I have resources currently deployed. You see a huge difference. Now I have over 2,000 metrics available to me. A huge amount of EC2 metrics. Let's click on that. 112 for auto-scaling group. Per instance metrics, 1247. So there are a great deal of metrics that come out of the box. And I'll just click into the auto-scaling group one. And here's a very common one, of course, the CPU utilization. And that's often used to trigger scale ins and scale outs based on a percentage of CPU utilization. But the point I want to get to is that despite all of these metrics that are available to you out of the box, we can also generate custom metrics in order to publish data that is not otherwise supported out of the box. So we can have our applications, our scripts, or other services generate their own metrics that we can send to CloudWatch and perform actions based on these metrics. Examples would be for a web application, page load times, back-end response times, request error rates. So good examples of custom metrics: application and instance performance metrics, counting error rates from web server logs, monitoring resource utilization not supported out of the box. And specifically, there are things you can do with custom metrics for memory utilization that you're not going to get out of the box. And this is an instance where it helps to think creatively. So if you're given a use case where you don't have a metric that you can use out of the box, then you have to start thinking about custom metrics. Now, the nice thing about the certification exam is that it's a little bit easier than in the real world. On the certification exam, you're going to have a multiple choice of answers, and one of those answers is going to contain the custom metric that would be appropriate for the given use case. And while we're on the topic of use cases, suppose you're given the requirement of needing to store your log data durably. So I like to focus on keywords. When I hear durable storage, I immediately start thinking S3. When I hear long-term, I immediately start thinking Glacier. So let's go over to logs in the management console, and I'm just going to click on any one of these. And these are log groups, and we'll get into log groups a little bit later in the section, but let's click on Actions, create a log group, delete a log group. Here we go. Export data to Amazon S3. So there's our durable storage option. So when we have an instance and we want that log data from that instance, we have to start thinking about durability. Otherwise, the data will be lost on instance or service termination. So we can export our logs to S3 buckets, and then we have our durability, and we can share that data as needed. Now, if we have an additional requirement that the logs need to be stored long term, well, we can then start setting up lifecycle rules to archive some of our S3 data to Glacier, usually based on a time frame, 30 days, 60 days. So it's good to think in use cases and just to understand the tools available that can satisfy your use cases and your requirements. Okay, so we've looked at CloudWatch monitoring and logging concepts at a higher level. Now, as we move throughout this section, we're going to cover some of these concepts in much more detail. So go ahead and mark this lesson as complete, and let's move on to the next.